I have to end at 10:15,
Yeah,
11:15. So let me know. It's 11:15. Let me turn this off. We're on.
Yeah. I didn't set it up for the women's show because I assumed you're not going to bring this over there in the middle of all that.
I thought it should be arranged for the women's share. I don't know.
But by somebody else, right? Not this machine.
You know, it's a good question. It wasn't discussed.
You're going to slip in there, all these people be there, you're in a rush.
I can do it. How long will it take for you to set it?
Okay.
After.
Yeah, okay.
11:15.
Okay,
Fine, let's
I didn't know what to say even exactly.
Live? Ready? Okay. Shavua Tov, everybody. Tzemach to everyone. This is our last class. No class on Tuesday night for some technical difficulties. We're going to be elsewhere. And so we're going to do today, Meretz Hashem, we're going to go through a summary of halachas, checklist of halachas relevant to Yom Kippur. We have 4. If anyone's interested in purchasing this, we have over here 4 copies. There are 4 topics in Yom Kippur that we need to discuss. First is Erev Yom Kippur, all the laws relevant to Erev Yom Kippur, and Hagim, Kapparos, etc. The second is the 5 oppressions, the laws, the special laws that are kept on Yom Kippur itself. The third is the laws relevant to the night of Yom Kippur, and the 5th is the day of Yom Kippur. So let's see how much we can accomplish. Let's begin with the Kapparos. The minhag of Kapparos is a minhag that we find first discussed in Rashi, describing a minhag done in the times of the Gemara, that people would take a tarnagel, a chicken, and use it for atonement. And we find that this custom spread in the times of the Go'anim, and as many Jewish customs, it did not escape controversy. The Rashba was not fond of this custom, while he agreed that there is such a custom that was around by Gedolei Yisrael. He himself says, I don't like it. It sounds too much like Darkei Amori, like the ways of the Amorites, which is an Isser in the Torah, and therefore he says it's better to abolish it. The Mechaber in the Shulchan Aruch went like that approach, and he says you shouldn't do kapparos. He did not say that it's a stupid minhag. He did not say that. That was an added words that some editors of the Shulchan Aruch swindled into there. They were part of the anti-kapparos group, so they wanted to make the Mechaber's words sharper than they already were. So they very connivingly entered in his words that it's a minhag shtus. But after various discussions of this, everyone agrees that those are not the Mechaber's words, and they were planted in there. He himself agrees, as he writes in Beis Yosef, that there are sources for this custom, and while he, bottom line, said we shouldn't do it, he doesn't negate the custom as a Jewish custom. The Rama, however, says that this is our minhag, this is what we do, and a person should not swerve from it, and this is how the Alter Rebbe writes it in the Shulchan Aruch. And therefore, all Ashkenazim fulfill the minhag of kapparos. Furthermore, even the Sfaradim fulfill the minhag of kapparos. Why? As although they're very fond of the rulings of the Mechaber, the Arizal said to do kapparos, and he himself did kapparos, and they always follow the rulings of Kabbalah of the Arizal. So basically, all Jewry today does kapparos, Ashkenazim, Sfaradim. Maybe you have some pockets of Yemenite Jewry that don't do it. Everyone does it on something, either money or either chickens, but the concept of kapparos everybody does because of this. We're going to review a few of the halachas related to kapparos. So those who do kapparos on chickens, the ideal time of kapparos is to be done by Shmuras HaBoker, which is the night before Yom Kippur this year. It's Monday before daybreak. Practically, if you're not able to do it then, and even if you are able to do it then, if there's too much of a pressure of people who need to do it then the place can bring to do it a few days before. As what usually happens is that unfortunately a lot of times we are so fond of Jewish customs that we begin trampling on many other things in order to fulfill it, and that of course has no basis and no right. I'll just give a few examples. According to halacha, it's forbidden to say a blessing on covering the blood of the chicken until the knife is checked. In many places, because they have such pressure, the sheikhah doesn't have time to check his knife between every chicken that he slaughters. So what does he do? He slaughters the chicken, he spills some of the blood. The person who owns the chicken thinks it's his mitzvah. He takes some earth, covers it, and says a blessing. What he's doing is against halacha. It's forbidden to him to say a bracha because the knife wasn't yet checked. Those sheikhs who know halacha know what they're doing. They check it between each one, but it takes a lot more time to check your knife between every single person. If it's not technically possible, then it's not possible to say a blessing. But this is an example that people don't know. And the whole idea of Kippur is to atone for sins, not to get more while we're at it. It's to atone for them. So, Rabbi Ma'amei, people don't know, this is one issue. Another issue is the issue of how the Kippuros is set up. Unfortunately, Hashem created Judaism in a way that there's also an economic advantage for those people who supply the mitzvahs to the Jewish people. And not always are those suppliers the most honest. Either they are not honest people or they just don't care to know better. I'll give an example. If a person bought 100 chickens and he's doing Kippuros with those 100 chickens, but not to 100 people, he's doing it to however many people come. If he got 1,000 people, he got off 100 chickens for 1,000 people. How? He recycles them. You give it back to him, you leave, he takes your chicken and he gives it to somebody else who buys it. This is A, against halacha, and B, it's considered stealing. These problems occur because a lot of people, they don't have any rabbinical counsel guiding them. They do things, they pirate, they do things on their own, and that's when we have all of these mistakes. Personally, I believe, in my opinion, that we, the people, have the power to force people to do things right, and that's by our purchasing power. And I personally think that we should not purchase Kippuros chickens from a place that does not have a rabbinical board that is behind it, that is supervising it, and make sure everything's being done according to halacha. Otherwise, you can just do it over money. Just do it over money is no problem. But it's very nice that we're excited about a Jewish custom, but to do it with trampling on other laws is a big problem. Another issue.
But if they're slaughtering the chicken right there, then they're not telling you.
Correct. If you see the slaughter right there, obviously you escape the first problem, and possibly you escape the second problem. Meaning with the covering of the blood. The only issue with that is that when you slaughter right away, you have a lot of people online, and there's a lot of pressure. I myself am a shaykhid. I know how it is, and I know statistically many of those chickens go to waste. They're literally just thrown out because there isn't enough time. So that's why it needs rabbinical supervision to make sure everything is done properly. You're dealing here with people's money. When I am paying for Kippuros, I'm giving you money to do for a certain service to be fulfilled, and I am assuming it's being done properly. Now, if you want to do it in an improper way, if you tell that to everybody, this is the way I'm doing it, you can agree or not agree, so that's your decision. But when they don't tell you information, you assume it's being done properly, and it's not. It's a big problem. Another issue is with the issue of Tsar Balachayim. There are certain laws that have to be kept, both according to the law of the land and according to Jewish law, that have to be kept in regards to how the chickens are dealt with. And therefore, for all of these reasons, it has to be done with a rabbinical authority who's a God-fearing Jew, and he knows the halachas, and he's going to make sure that everything's done mitzad hayeser toiv.
How much money if you're not using the chicken?
18 kapparos, you can do 18 shekel. The more the merrier. You could do 18, you could do 20, you could do 25. But usually minimum is 18.
Money goes to
you can do it.
Tzedek.
Yeah, it's stock organization. It's meant to go to poor people. Like, a shul is not a shul is a very nice thing, but it's not paupers. Back in the day, shuls used to have funds that they give to paupers, but most shuls today, they use the money to pay for the electricity, to pay for everything else. So it's meant to go to paupers. Pinning kapar is meant to go to, ani, people who don't have what to eat. Okay, so that's how you do it using money. Some have the custom to do smicha on the chicken, to lean on it. After slightly, of course, you don't want to squish it or cause any issues with it. You lean on it slightly at the end of the ceremony. Practically, this is not the widespread custom anymore. The main thing of the Kippuros is two parts. One part of the Kippuros is the idea of that this animal, this chicken, is serving as a korban to atone for us. So it's as if it's in place of us, and the Kabbalistic explanation of that is that the Sitra Achra is very blood hungry. They have some vampire tendencies. They like blood. And so even if we get kapara and we daven and we get mechila, We need to be feed. It's called to feed the klippus. That's the idea of the scapegoat. What's the idea of the asir la'azazel that was thrown off the cliff? On Yom Kippur was to feed the klippus and get them away from the Jewish people. So that's what's explained on Pi Kabbalah that the Kapara says. That aspect is only fulfilled with an actual chicken. Money doesn't fulfill that. So that's the whole, and that's what the main thing is, the shechita. The kosher shechita being done to the chicken, that's the main kapara when it's done to chicken that you own. The second aspect of it, of course, pidyon of tzedakah, Hashem giving tzedakah money, that's the second aspect of it. And those who do with money, they fulfill the second aspect of the minhag of kaparas, which is also fulfilled by us, because we don't just do kaparas for the chicken, we then donate the chicken to a tzedakah organization, or we donate its value to a tzedakah organization. Okay, on Erev, any kaparas questions?
Is Elif supervised properly?
I have no idea. They don't publicize. I don't know what they do. I have to find out. But I'll just tell you that I just discovered one place that was doing it. They unfortunately made an arrangement with the slaughterhouse that we don't own the chickens. We're borrowing the chickens. Meaning they borrowed 1,000 chickens. They're not selling it to anyone. People are giving money as if they're buying the chickens, but really they're just giving money for the tzedakah organization, and then they give the chickens back. So when you're doing the kaparas, you don't actually own the chicken.
So that's probably not achieving the goal?
That's not achieving the goal. That's a big problem. And again, all this happens because people, even from people with a beard and a hat, that doesn't mean anything. If the person isn't learning, if he doesn't learn Shulchan Aruch, doesn't have it, and even if he does, we have a rule. Whenever you do a business, you have to have outside, external, rabbinical supervision, because we're human and money blinds. So that's why it has to be done. And all these mishaps happen when this doesn't occur, when people do it on, so you shouldn't feel bad. You should stand your principles. This year I'm going to do on money because no one provided the ability for me to do on a chicken according to the proper ways to be done. If they want to get it right, but we're very for it. We're not against kaparas. We're very for kaparas, but it should be done properly.
If the chicken turned out to be trade, not from the shechita, but
it's okay. The only time you need a new one is if the shechita wasn't kosher, like the sheikh checked his knife, oops, and it was.
Yeah. But the kisei, the bracha on the kisei adam.
Shouldn't say the bracha you read.
The bracha of kisei adam, do you make it on a treifa?
Because I said I did it first, and then it was chicken.
I have to look into that, but if I remember correctly, no, we cannot say bracha of kisei adam on a treifa, but there's no chiyuv to check for treifas before the bracha. There's an obligation I have to look into that, but I don't believe there's an obligation to check for treifas.
Anyway, we shouldn't say the bracha because most people aren't sharpening their knife.
Correct. If they not sharpening, checking.
So we shouldn't. We're going to ask
Correct. Do not say the bracha.
Say
Absolutely
the
not.
You can do the action, but not the bracha.
Yeah, the action you can do, but you can't say a bracha, because what if it comes out that his knife was no good? That means your chicken was an avela. That means that it wasn't chayv in kisei adam. The bracha is bracha l'vatal. It says in Shulchan Aruch. This is the law in Shulchan Aruch. It's not a chap someone came up with.
So
Shulchan Aruch says before you cover the blood, you have to check the knife.
So if you physically do the dusting without the bracha,
you've still done the mitzvah.
You've done the mitzvah even if it's a sharp knife. Or a check knife.
Correct.
Okay.
Erev Yom Kippur. Omissions from the prayer in Erev Yom Kippur. So on Erev Yom Kippur, which is this Tuesday, we omit Tachanun, no more Tachanun until after Tishrei. We're off. We're on a Tachanun vacation. No Lam Natseach. And just for Yom Kippur, for Erev Yom Kippur itself, there's no Mizmor L'Soda. The reason is because some say that the Korban Taida was not brought in Erev Yom Kippur because there's a rule, we never diminish the eating time of the animal. And since it's only given, since you can't eat on Yom Kippur, so it diminishes its eating time, so we don't do it. We don't say Avinu Malkeinu on Erev Yom Kippur, so we're losing our chances. We have today by Mincha, tomorrow Shachris and Mincha, and that's it. It's over. We have 3 times left. And of course Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur by night, Yom Kippur by day. We have a whole bunch of Avinu Malkeinus on Yom Kippur. But for the Seres Yemei Tshuva, for Yom Kippur, it's almost over. Eating on Erev Yom Kippur. It is a mitzvah, an obligation to eat on Erev Yom Kippur. Every bite of food you eat, you fulfill a mitzvah. Usually we have, just like the Isser of eating on Yom Kippur is that every bite someone eats is an Aveira, so to an Erev Yom Kippur, every bite you eat is a mitzvah. Some say it's a mitzvah deraisa, a biblical command. Others say it's only a rabbinical command. Al-Teba and Shulchan Aruch writes in parentheses, it's only rabbinical. But either way, we are not Sadducees. We follow also rabbinical laws. It's a mitzvah of every bite of food that we take on Erev Yom Kippur. Some say this begins from the night before Yom Kippur, but certainly from the day of Yom Kippur, from the morning. And that's why some Gedolei Yisrael would walk around with bisli, with bamba. They would walk around with snacks and eat. Usually it's the street people that eat garanim, But on Erev Yom Kippur, everyone becomes a street person in order to fulfill the mitzvah. You don't have to be garanim, but
You're putting garbage into your body when you eat that.
garanim. Right, I was just giving an example.
No,
You can have
it's
fresh
a problem.
nuts.
It's a problem.
Fresh nuts. Fresh nuts straight from the tree. Peanuts. Okay, for those non-allergic. So whatever it is, you find the food that's healthy, that's best for you, and you eat that food. That's the mitzvah of eating on Erev Yom Kippur. It says that when we eat on Erev Yom Kippur, it's considered as if we fasted. In other words, usually the reward you get for eating is reward for eating. How much reward am I going to give someone for eating a delicious meal? That itself is a reward. But Erev Yom Kippur, the chiddush is that the reward is given as if you fasted. So therefore, I had a question to my kids. Since children are not allowed to fast on Yom Kippur, if we go to a certain age, they're not allowed to fast at all. So maybe they're not allowed to eat on Erev Yom Kippur, because if they eat, it's as if they fasted.
Trick question. Eat, tatala, eat. Okay.
Okay. Anyways, took them a while to answer, to get out of the problem. We have a special menu on Yom Kippur. Certain foods we avoid eating, and certain foods we actually purposely eat. Throughout the day of Yom Kippur, we should only eat easily digestible foods, such as fish or chicken, not meat, not roast, not meat, not ribs, not sheep, not lamb chops. We go down a grade to poultry or fish. Okay, that's throughout Erev Yom Kippur. I'll just mention that the minhag is that we have two meals. We have a meal for breakfast, a nice meal for breakfast, and a meal of course, Suda Samasekas, which we'll touch upon momentarily. And the reason for that is because even though Minadin, when we said it's a mitzvah to eat, as long as you ate one meal, you're good from the mitzvah's perspective. But the Alter writes in the Siddur, you should eat enough for 2 days. Now, some understand this to mean literally, eat 2 days worth of food, which is maybe a little difficult on our abdomen. And others understand that mean eat slightly more than your usual daily meals worth. So you've already entered the second day's eating when you eat past that day's worth of eating. So that's the more, practical approach. The foods that we avoid. So as I said, we eat these digestible foods. We avoid eating, this is for men, we avoid eating eggs and garlic throughout Erev Yom Kippur. So we try to avoid eggs, certainly not egg salad. We try to avoid putting eggs in foods. Like garlic, no one eats plain garlic, but we don't put garlic in our foods on Erev Yom Kippur. The reason for this is because these foods increase in a man's seed, and it can cause him to have nocturnal emission, which we're very careful to avoid on Yom Kippur. We likewise avoid eating sesame products, so that means no tchina, no chalva. Most hummuses contain tchina in them, so no hummuses. So a lot of these Mediterranean, Middle Eastern dips, not on Erev Yom Kippur. We don't eat them. Milchiks is permitted to be eaten, not a problem, by the day morning meal. However, we avoid it in the afternoon meal. Fish, as I said before, you can eat, but some say you should avoid fish by the Suda Samafsekes. It's brought in the Medrash. He's named the Medrash an actual mitzvah to eat fish in Erev Yom Kippur. And it's a mitzvah to eat fish in Erev Yom Kippur. It has a whole story there. So you should eat fish. The question is, should you eat it for Suda Samafsekes? And that is under debate if you should or should not.
Krepelach shouldn't have regular meat in it then?
The way I wrote it here is ground chicken.
Better than the meat.
But if it has a little bit of ground meat, it's how much is it? It's not a large amount anyways, but it's better to do with ground chicken. Lekach, we have a minhag in Erev Yom Kippur to receive lekach from the gabbai of the shul. And we request it, we request the lekach, please give me lekach. And if it had been decreed that I need to be on the receiving end, I just did it. Or Yetze, we fulfilled our obligation being on the receiving end by asking and receiving lekach. That's the idea. Some of the custom to visit graves on Erev Yom Kippur. just like we do Erev Rosh Hashanah. This is not the Chabad custom. Lashes. It is customary, as recorded in the Shulchan Aruch, on Erev Yom Kippur after midday before going to mikvah to receive 39 lashes. This is for men only. Only the men get the lashes, and we don't do it hard. We do it very slightly, very lightly, tap on the shoulder. We get down on the floor, not with our forehead on the floor. We're facing the sky, not with we're not prostrated. And we go towards the north, as it says, the north is the source of all Ponzi schemes. It's the source of all sins of money and money-related sins, and therefore that's where we face towards. And we receive the Malchus in that way. When we're receiving it, we recite for a total of 39 words. We cite it 3 times. Each time it's 13 words, the whole sentence, so it's a total of 39. Both the person receiving the lashes and the person giving the lashes says the purpose.
What's the reason for not eating sesame crackers?
It says because it increases in saliva. And we need a lot of talking power on Yom Kippur. Can't be tied up tongue. That's the reason recorded behind it. The reason why we receive Malchus, even though it's not real lashes, is simply in order to, it's make-believe in order to help us, arouse us in tshuva. It's a minhag, it's brought in Shulchan Aruch, to taivel in a mikvah Erev Yom Kippur, and so is followed by all the Jewish people. Even those who don't go to mikvah during the year, everyone, Baruch Hashem, goes in Erev Yom Kippur for the sake of tshuva. In actuality, to taivel at least 3 times. Whenever you taivel for tshuva purposes, you should do 3 dips. 1, 2, 3.
Each time.
What do you mean each time?
Are you going to go into how many times we actually go to the mikvah?
Yes. It is customary even for women to go to mikvah on Erev Yom Kippur for tshuva purposes. Also, women have to do tshuva. They also have sins, not just men. And therefore, everyone has to get ready for the big day through atonement, through kapara, through tara, through purity, and therefore everyone goes. It used to be, and still remains in some communities, for all girls above the age of bas mitzvah to taivel. Practically today, only married women go, not single. Before this mikvah, one is to take a shower, remove all chatzitzas from his body. That means he's to comb his hair, make sure there's no knots in the hair, and remove any intervals from his body in the water, just like is the real laws of a real immersion when we used to immerse for biblical purposes. It's removing all the chatzitzas. If somebody is not able to go to mikvah for whatever reason, then they should at least take a 3-4 minute shower standing under the water pressure for 3-4 minutes without moving away from it, and that is considered a secondary type of purification if a mikvah is not available. So that is also an option. It's a minhag that we wear, number 1, Shabbos clothing for Yom Kippur, as there's not a lot of ways of how we can respect and honor Yom Kippur through eating and drinking, as we cannot eat and drink. So the only thing left is through wearing nice Shabbos clothing. So actually wearing Shabbos clothing is especially important if, as part of the Yom Kippur attire, we also make sure to have Shabbos tablecloths on our table, even though they are not going to be eaten on throughout Yom Kippur. Nonetheless, it's in order to honor the day. Likewise, we are accustomed to wearing a white kittel. The purpose of this custom is to remind us, is first of all to symbolize, to be like angels, as angels supposedly are white, and in order to remind us of the day of death. So it's for 2. It's for a good reason and more of a negative reason, but both of them to help us do tshuva. Women are to avoid wearing jewelry or ornaments on Yom Kippur, with exception to those that they always wear during the week. The weekday jewelry that they always wear is not a problem. The main issue is with the more extravagant ones that are safe for Shabbos Yom Tov that should not be worn on Yom Kippur in order to show that they have fear of the day of judgment. Vidui. It's going to be today's day of Lachem Ritzshem. I'm going to put this out in a few hours. The confession prayer. There's a mitzvah min ha-Torah for everyone to confess their sins when they do tshuva. And therefore, since Yom Kippur is the day of tshuva for all the Jewish people, therefore there is a chiyuv, an obligation, a mitzvah to confess one's sins. When do we do the confession prayers? We have a number of times. We do it in every Shemana Esrei of Yom Kippur, with exception to one. Which one? Ne'ilah. We don't do a Ne'ilah. Others do. We don't. And but in every other prayer we do it. In fact, we do it twice, by the private prayer, the silent prayer, and the Chazaras Hashat. So we actually go through it twice. So we also do the Vidoy by Mincha time in the private Shemana Esrei, the silent Shemana Esrei. And you're also supposed to do it on your own. It's not done with the Chazan. You do it on your own as Shkia is coming in on Erev Yom Kippur. This is, it's usually after Mincha, it's daven early Mincha. So it's you come to Shul for Kol Nidre. Before Kol Nidre, you can get in your Vidoy. Min Adin, all confession is saying, God, I have sinned, Hashem Le'Baganu, or Chatasi Avisi Pashati, I have sinned, and that's officially a kosher Vidoy. All the rest is just spices to the mitzvah. But that's the main mitzvah, saying you have sinned. Mincha. It is customary, as written in Shulchan Aruch, to come to shul for mincha already in Shabbos clothing. We customarily pray mincha early in order to give time for the final meal for the Sudas HaMafsekes. It's a minhag from the Baal Shem Tov to place charity in plates. By mincha time, we have plates set up for different organizations, tzedakah organizations, and we put coins in them before mincha, and the dingling of the coins, the sound, that arouses a lot of pleasure above, says the Baal Shem Tov. And the Rabbi
you could give the tzedakah straight to somebody who is requesting it on the street.
Correct. That's also true. You can give to both. The Rebbe, when he walked in Erev Yom Kippur, there were like 100 of these different stands. The Rebbe would put in every single one, put a coin in. The final meal, Sudas HaMafsekes, called Mafsekes because then we stop eating afterwards. It is customary throughout the meals of Erev Yom Kippur to dip the bread in honey. This is both by the breakfast meal and by the Sudas HaMafsekes. We dip it in honey, not in salt. We avoid eating dairy, and as we said before, we'll eat light food. Some avoid eating fish. We don't eat any spicy foods on Erev Yom Kippur. And according to Chabad custom, we try to avoid adding salt to the foods. Meaning, in cooking, if salt is added, it's added. But on the table, if you see something wasn't salted enough, we don't add more.
A nice hearty protein beanie brown rice is fine. That's all good to it.
Yeah, there's nothing wrong with it. If it's healthy for you, if it works for your stomach, then why not? Kreplach. So minhag Ashkenaz to make kreplach on different occasions, just 3 different times of the year: Purim, Shana Rabbah, and Yom Kippur. This is when we do it. It is some right that you should not drink alcoholic beverages on Erev Yom Kippur. Not a time for l'chaims.
You didn't mention how many times we go to the mikvah.
Okay. Okay. Back to the amount of times we go to mikvah. Thank you for reminding me. So regarding the amount of times, as Chassidim, we usually always go anyways before Shachar, so that's one time. We then go before mincha. Okay, the main time of going is before mincha, to daven mincha in purity. And some are accustomed to also go later on, or some are accustomed to alternatively go later on, after the Sudas HaMafsekes, which is right before Yom Kippur is beginning. Practically, the custom that many Chassidim follow is to go 3 times: once before davening, once before mincha, and once after Sudas HaMafsekes. However, if you can only go once, the main time to go is, as I said, after midday, before mincha. That is the main time that one is to type. Before reciting Birchas Hamazon by the Sudas HaMafsekes, one should explicitly stipulate and say, I am hereby not accepting the fast with this grace after meals. I intend to, if I want to, eat and drink afterwards until close to sunset. I may. If a person didn't say this, the Diavad rule, he can still eat and drink. But the Chachil, a person is supposed to make that stipulation beforehand. It is customary that parents, including mothers and fathers, bless their children and grandchildren with Birchas Habanim on Erev Yom Kippur, Sudas HaMafsekes, before or afterwards, whenever you want, with the blessing, Berech Hashem Yishmerecha. Being that we're not kohenim, and even if you are a kohen, being you're not doing the siyas kapayim, we don't bless like a kohen, but rather we simply put the hands on top of the head, and we say the birchas haban v'rech Hashem yishmerecha. It's brought down that a person should pray for his child to be sealed for a good year spiritually and physically, and he should daven for their well-being, for their physical well-being, their spiritual well-being, and as I said before, also mothers are to bless their children. This is a very special time a person can take with his children on Yom Kippur. It's usher to leave food on a fire from before Yom Kippur until after Yom Kippur. So if a shul or a family wants to have hot water ready as soon as Yom Kippur is over so they can have a hot coffee without waiting even a second, it's a problem. They cannot leave the water in the boiler, in the kumkum, the electric urn for the sake of after Yom Kippur. They have to do it only after Yom Kippur. So hot water cannot be prepared before Yom Kippur. After Yom Kippur, if you like eating a nice hot cholent after Yom Kippur, you're going to have to put it on the fire after Yom Kippur is over. You can't leave it like we do for Shabbos. This is a machlekes, but this is the way we rule in Ashkenaz. We do not prepare food. If it's for children that are going to eat on Yom Kippur, it's something else. But if it's for yourself until after Yom Kippur, it is a problem. There's a mitzvah d'oraisa to add to the holiness of Yom Kippur, and this doesn't apply only by Yom Kippur, but by every Shabbos and Yantiv. This is called Tsfat Kedusha. It's a mitzvah d'oraisa to add, even though according to Jewish law, the day begins by sunset, nightfall, sunset, because we don't know. So it begins by sunset and ends by nightfall. We have a mitzvah to add even more, that you should begin the holiday and the Sabbath and the Yom Kippur laws of fasting, or the Shus, etc., already beforehand. How long beforehand? The custom is to do at least 4 minutes. So at least 4 minutes before Shkia. Certainly the women are lighting candles from candle lighting time, so they're already accepted Yom Kippur much earlier. But even the men who don't light candles, we should still accept Yom Kippur and accept Shabbos and accept Yantiv. This is relevant for every Shabbos. A number of minutes before sunset. Don't wait until sunset. Do a number of minutes before sunset, and then you officially accept the day, and that is the mitzvah d'oraisa of the Tsefes Yantiv, the Tsefes Yom Kippur. Likewise, when Yom Kippur goes out, why always do they write that Shabbos leave time is always later than the Tzeiss B'chavim time during the week? As we have the mitzvah of adding to the leave of Shabbos. That is why. By candle lighting, we recite the bracha of the Hadlik Ner Shel Yom HaKippurim, and if a woman who is lighting also recites the blessing of Shechianu. Obviously, she does not repeat it later on since she already recited the blessing. A man who's lighting candles just waits for later on to say it, doesn't say it by candle lighting. Married couples.
Later on, when does a man say it? What?
In shul, we do it by after Kol Nidre.
Oh, okay. Right.
So that's when all the men say it.
Yeah.
And women who didn't light candles for whatever reason, or didn't say it by lighting candles. Mm-hmm. Married couples are to leave a light on in their bedroom. It doesn't have to be the main light. It can be a night light. I do not suggest leaving on a candle. Very dangerous. Do not do that. Only a night light that's safe, or any other light that's, the reason behind this minhag, or this halacha really, is because it's forbidden to have marital relations, and we want to have light in the room in order to prevent that from happening. It's forbidden to have intimacy in the face of light.
Bringing the candles to shul, by the way, the other.
We're coming up.
Okay.
Lighting candles in shul. That's the next one. Lighting candles in shul. It is customary, used to be customary for every male to bring a gesundlich, a life candle, or what we call today a ner chaim, to the shul and light it in Erev Yom Kippur. This gesundlich, as I said, was lit by every male. Today the custom is for only a married father, a married male to do so. So that's one candle that's lit in the shul. It's brought down that this candle has some spooky omens associated with it and can help determine the fate of one's year. And meaning that if it goes off, if it extinguishes early, that's a problem. If it extinguishes before Yom Kippur is over, and it says as a kapara for that, a person should relight it and not extinguish it till it goes out every year. Meaning leave it lit every year till it goes out on its own after Yom Kippur. The best thing to do in order to avoid this omen is simply don't know which candle is yours. Mix it up with other candles. Get a regular generic brand that everyone has. Mix it up with other candles. So if one of them went out, you go over after Yom Kippur, you see 6 went out. 50 are still standing. You have no clue if it's yours or not.
It's a shishim.
Not to the shishim.
People do it in shul. I mean,
In addition, we light a yahrzeit candle. Some people do it in shul.
yeah, I'm sorry.
We do
you
this in
said
shul.
that, of course.
A yahrzeit candle can be lit at home, can be lit in shul, whatever you want. We light one yahrzeit candle per deceased for a father and a mother. And of course, if they're in the living, it's not lit. It's lit for a deceased parent. And in addition to that, everybody should have lit either a yahrzeit candle or a regular 24-hour candle in their house for the sake of Havdalah. As is a special halacha of Havdalah on Motzei Yom Kippur, that one has to use a candle that has been lit from before Yom Kippur started. You can't just light a match and say a bracha meir ha'esh, it's bracha v'atala. You can't. You have to use a ner sheshavas, a candle that was lit from before Yom Kippur and remain lit throughout Yom Kippur. So that's why the best thing is, if you're making Havdalah at home, to light a 24-hour candle at home.
It can't be one of your yahrzeit candles.
It could be. It could. If you have a yahrzeit candle, what I do is just use your yahrzeit candle. If many people have parents that are alive, they don't light yahrzeit candles, so therefore they should anyways be lighting a 24-hour candle. So at the end of the day, everybody should have a 24-hour candle in the house. So some do it as a yahrzeit candle, and some do it just as a Havdalah candle.
So a candle for each parent?
Correct.
Or each, whoever, right?
We only light for parents.
Oh.
I once saw someone in shul. He brought in like 16 yahrzeit candles. His uncle is this, is that. I told him that it's not the custom. The custom is only for the parent to do. Appeasing someone that you hurt. It is a requirement for a person to request forgiveness for anyone who they have wronged during the year. And the reason for this is because as much as God loves us and wants to forgive us, He can't forgive us on behalf of somebody else. So when someone transgresses a law of Beinonu L'Chaveiroi, he's offended somebody else, and this most often happens, by the way, with family members, as naturally we're most of the time with them, including a wife, a parent, even a child, a sibling, and anyone else. So Hashem cannot intervene and forgive on their behalf. They have to forgive on their own, and therefore it is a custom of Jewry before Yom Kippur to ask for forgiveness for those who we have wronged. The way that this is meant to be done is as follows. If the person who you've offended, this is not meant to be done. You just go over to every single person you say, "Do you forgive me? Do you forgive me?" That's very cute. It's a very cute gameplay. It's not the real minhag of what's meant to be. It's talking about serious business. You've hurt somebody. You've really offended somebody, and even if you're still on talking terms, but throughout the year there was offensive things done. So if the person will not be ashamed of you bringing up the sin, then you should explicitly say what you're asking forgiveness for. If the person may get embarrassed by that, then halach is you don't bring it up. You just ask them a general forgiveness, and you don't bring up the offense. But otherwise, you're supposed to bring up the offense and tell them, I'm asking forgiveness for this, specifically. A person who has asked for mechila is to forgive right away. This is the halacha. Now, even though there's certain sins that we say you don't have to forgive right away, especially if you suspect that the person will then continue doing his sinful activity. He's never left the sin. He wants to continue offending you and continue asking for mechila. You don't have to forgive him, but nonetheless it's brought down that it's a midas chasidus to offend, to forgive the person even in such a case. The 5 oppressions. There are 5 inuyim, oppressions that biblically are required for a person to act by throughout Yom Kippur. We're going to go through them now. Not to eat or drink, that's 1. Not to bathe, not to anoint, not to wear leather shoes, and not to engage in marital intimacy. The Isra of Malach on Yom Kippur is just like Shabbos, no difference whatsoever. So anything you can't do on Shabbos, you can't do on Yom Kippur. It is not like Yom Tif. A lot of things that you're allowed to do on Yom Tif, you cannot do on Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur is called Shabbos Shabbosin. It has the same din as Shabbos. You're not allowed to prepare food on Yom Kippur for after the fast. You have to wait till after the fast is over. So even simply to take some bottles of juice and put it in the freezer is a problem. You have to wait till Yom Kippur is over to do any food preparation. However, it is permitted to prepare food on Yom Kippur for the sake of children who cannot prepare foods on their own. They're too young. So that's not a problem. Also, food is not considered muktzah. You're allowed to touch food, and we don't expect you're going to come to eat it. But otherwise, an older child should not have his mother prepare food for him. He should do so himself. The issur of eating and drinking, of course, is that is the main biblical prohibition of oppression. It's eating and drinking. The other four are learned by the rabbis as a tradition. They are also biblical status, but they don't carry kares. Eating and drinking does carry the penalty of kares, as explicitly mentioned in Scripture. It is therefore forbidden to eat any food or drink any liquid whatsoever. The entire idea of shiur, that you drink or eat a certain amount within 9 minutes, that is only for a person who anyways is allowed to eat because they are deathly ill. They have an illness or a medical condition that is deemed to be potentially life-threatening either now or in the long term, and therefore they have a medical exemption to not fast. So by them we say, if you're able to get away with shiurim, then keep under the kares penalty. That's the whole idea. As kares is only applicable when someone eats a certain amount within a certain amount of time. So we always try to go to beneath that point, even when we're allowed to eat. But certainly not to stam a person, God forbid, he'll not let it eat or drink anything whatsoever. Even tasting food is forbidden. Even if you want to taste this chicken soup and you're going to spit it right out to see if it's salted enough so your child will eat it, it's usher to do so on your Kippur. You cannot taste anything, which then brings us to chewing gum. Even if you have plain chewing gum, unflavored, nothing in it but the sap of the tree, whatever they use for it, it's usher to chew it on Yom Kippur. I'm not swallowing nothing. There's no taste. There's no bracha. Doesn't matter. So no chewing tobacco on Yom Kippur. All that stuff is a big problem. A pregnant and nursing woman. The general rule is that all pregnant and nursing women are to fast unless they have an explicit medical directive otherwise due to a specific medical condition. Some examples of that would be a pregnant woman who has pregnancy diabetes, or a pregnant woman who has had miscarriages before chas v'shalom, or has history of early labors. All these cases she is to discuss with her doctor. Most likely he will advise her that it is not a good idea to fast based on her condition and history, and in that case she would either eat only shiurim or she won't fast at all. But in general, a pregnant nursing woman must fast on Yom Kippur without those exemptions. The shiurim are as follows for those who need to eat it. It's 30 cc of food. It's a volume, not a weight. We measure by volume, not weight. All shiurim of Torah are measured by volume. So you have a 30 cc cup. You look where it says 30 cc. You can crumble pretzels. You can crumble bread, matzah into it. When it reaches 30 cc, you eat slightly less every 9 minutes. That's for those who have a medical condition are allowed to eat. That's how much they would eat within a period of every 9 minutes. Drinking, by the way, that's a matchbox. It's 30 cc, typical matchbox. So you can fill it up with crumbs, and that's how it's done. Regarding drinking, there's no cc measurement. It all depends on your personal cheek. So everybody who has a worry that maybe they may need to eat and drink according to Shiur and Yom Kippur has to create their measurements before Yom Kippur. How do you do so? Fill up one cheek with water, spill it out into a plastic cup, and then make a line slightly under that amount, because you have to drink less than that. So you make a line slightly under that, and when you need to drink in Yom Kippur based on sakana, you fill it up to that line and you drink it every 9 minutes. That's how it is done. Even a woman after birth is required to fast, unless she is within 3 or 7 days. Within 3 days, she doesn't fast. Within 7 days, it depends on doctor's orders, depends on a few different things. But basically, past 7 days, every Yoledes has to fast, unless they have a certain special medical condition. Okay, we're going to have to cap it up here. See some important things. Okay, smelling spices on Yom Kippur. It's a mitzvah to smell spices because we're lacking 100 blessings, because we're not eating and drinking, and we have short Shemoneh Esrei, 7 blessings Shemoneh Esrei instead of 19. So we fill that up with smelling spices. The only thing is, yes, I see a lot of people in Yom Kippur that they give out these essential oils, and they put it on a tissue or put it on the finger and smell. That is usher to do on Yom Kippur for 2 reasons. To put on a tissue is also because of Meilad Reich. You're not allowed to create a new smell on Shabbos or Yom Tov. To put on your finger is 2 assur. One is you're not allowed to create a new smell. And the second, you're not allowed to anoint. oil on your body. So that is a problem. The best thing you can do is sniff it by the area, or maybe pour some on the table, do it in a way that it's not
What on the finger, and what about the tissue makes for a new smell? It's the original smell that happened to be on another item.
The smell also gets on your finger.
What?
The smell gets on your finger.
That creates a new smell?
Of course, that's called moving a smell from one area to another area.
Oh, moving the smell.
Yes. Okay, the issur of bathing is even to stick a pinky in water, and therefore the only time it's allowed to wash is to get dirt off of our fingers. If we go to the bathroom before davening or during davening, you can wash your hands until here 3 times. But if you're after davening, let's say on Tuesday night after Ma'ariv, we don't have prayer in front of us anymore until the next morning, so then you cannot wash your hands at all unless you got them dirty in the process of using the bathroom. You just wipe them like this and say,
So normal, clean bathroom use in any
if
way?
you didn't get it dirty,
you wouldn't do it.
just do this, and then you can say Shiur outside.
So you do that against the same start, Negel Vasser in the morning?
In the morning, we do Negel Vasser till here, as the Tuma only reaches till the knuckles.
To these knuckles.
Yes, correct.
And you do it including the knuckles? Or
Yeah, you don't have to be so, do an estimate, you don't have to be so exact. You do an estimate of it. Last halacha, since it's forbidden to have intimacy on Yom Kippur, therefore every couple is required to follow the laws of our chakis. The distances that are normally required to be followed when the wife is impure, that is throughout the entire Yom Kippur. Tzemach Hashem should accept our kapara, our tshuva of all Klal Yisrael.